Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Jeff. We're back.
Hello.
I think we're on a pretty good every other week cadence at this point, so I guess this is what we're doing for now.
Yeah, we're not, there's just not, I mean, like last summer we were like marveling, like, oh man, there's stuff every week. We can totally do this all summer. And then like this year it's been, like, I mean, it's probably good that it's been, sort of low key, but,
Loki, yeah, that just premiered this week. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I have not watched that
week,
yet. I also have not watched The Falcon
good.
and the Winter Soldier. Also have not watched WandaVision. So
in order of, I would say watch WandaVision first.
Okay.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier is pretty good. It's basically just another Marvel movie, though. And then
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. I
mean,
like
Marvel movies.
I mean, I like them too, but they kind of get formulaic. But and
Sure.
then so far Loki through one episode, pretty good. And
right.
this is podcast versus Marvel.
This is
Marvel podcast versus everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me, as usual, every damn time is Jeff Nusser, always late. Here he is again.
Yeah.
Had to throw that in there.
I know. Always late. Tonight it was, today was a very, very busy day, and I went lots of different places to do lots of different things, culminating with putting a new a new handle on my exterior, my door, my front door. And then when I finally sat down on the couch, I was like, oh. And I was like, I don't want to move. I don't want to get up. And Atticus wanted to build Legos and watch Lego Masters. And so I built Legos and watched Lego Masters for about a half an hour. And yeah. So there you go. That's why I was late tonight. We were building a Black Widow helicopter, by the way.
Well, you need to teach Atticus about time management and scheduling. So
that's probably true.
Step up your game, Jeff. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, we did it again. We just we had one topic in mind, but we just asked everyone to give us topics, and y'all came through again on Twitter, our preferred social network medium. So yeah, Jeff, I wanted to just get into those again. We kind of handpicked the first one, but we'll give them a shout out for asking it anyway. So where was it? Now I can't. Now it's not finding it. It's in my mentions. You think I would be able to? You would think
find
so.
Devin Lewis would like us to talk about.
You.
At Devin Lewis 89 would like us to talk about the CFP 12 team expansion. And wouldn't you know it, we were going to talk about it anyway. So great minds think alike.
Yeah, and then he also asked, also relatable, will this now lead to paying players or solving the NIL problem for the NCAA that they keep trying to ignore?
Well, I'll just shortcut to that one really quick. This will have nothing to do with that. Yeah, that's coming anyway.
Yeah, that'll come. That was already on its way. But yeah, I don't. This is just more money on the pile that they were already getting. So
the schools.
For the schools. So I don't think this amount of money wouldn't push them that the big TV money that they were already getting wasn't going to push them to do anything. So I think what's pushing them to do something is just the movement and the general kind of idea that more people are believing in this, and it's just one of those things that will eventually come, because the schools and NCAA are realizing that they are looking like they are on the wrong side of it, and so that's why it'll come.
And I think the reality is too that the NIL is going to exist. Well, okay. So in a roundabout way, I think Devin is right that it actually is related to NIL, because I firmly believe that they are coming around on NIL because they can see like the NCAA has this ability to like read the tea leaves a little bit. I mean, even though they're obviously slow to change and slow to make progress with policy.
By design.
Yeah, by design, exactly. I think they can see the writing on the wall that like eventually they're going to have to pay these guys, and like pay them as in employees pay them.
Yep.
And so NIL is just another mechanism to help them stave off that eventuality, to help them, keep the eventuality that they will need to actually pay them at arm's length for, again, an indeterminate amount of time. So will it now lead to, the first half of his question was, will it now lead to paying players? Maybe someday. But again, I don't think it's so much the finances of this as much as it is just the, people realizing what's right and what's wrong, and realizing that, the way that college athletics has been set up forever, is just wrong. And it's not really morally defensible. And so again, the NIL stuff, I think the reason why the NCAA is willing to embrace it is because, maybe if we give them this, then we won't have to pay them for a while. And they're probably right. They're probably right about that. I don't know how long that is, but they're probably right that people will get off their back for a time if the NIL stuff comes along. So anyway, so there's that part of the question, but 12 teams.
The college football playoff. Not 8.
12 teams.
Not 8. We just went right up to 12.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they're going to vote on it next week. It seems like it would. Yeah, it's going to happen.
These things don't get out there unless it's a done deal.
So I think the big thing is people are like, why do they go 12, not 8? And I think the SEC is a big reason why they're at 12 and not 8.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to give any expansion, means you're going to have auto bids for the major conferences.
Right.
So if you just went to 8, then you still have then the SEC is not. They're already getting 2 teams in possibly every year, and so they're not getting any more chunk of the pie. They're maybe getting another team in those 8. So the SEC wants that opportunity to get 3 or 4 teams in, and that's what this 12 team lineup offers. So 6 conference champions and 6 at-large bids. So the 6 conference champions would be the 5, or the major conferences, and then that's it. And then what I can't. There's probably, I assume, a group of 5 would have to win their conference just to qualify, but I guess they could lose one game and not.
Yeah, yes and no. So the 6 auto bids is literally the 6 highest ranked conference champs. So if the Power 5 is not one of the top 6, then they would not get an automatic bid. So the example is this past season, the Pac-12 did not have one of the, they were not among the top 6, but that was all, that was entirely COVID related, right? Because that had everything to do with the fact that they started the season late, which meant they weren't ranked when they started playing, or at least weren't ranked very highly. They played fewer games than most of the teams. I mean, it was sort of the perfect example of poll momentum, right? Which is you win, you move up, you lose, you move down, you don't play, you don't move, right? Well, all these teams that, won more, had basically the same winning percentage, but maybe won more games, they were ranked higher because, well, of course they won more games. So it's, in theory, one of the Power Five could be left out, but, in every regular normal season, except for, last year, obviously every regular normal season of the CFP, it was the top five, it was the Power Five champs plus one G5, whichever G5 was the highest ranked. So, so I think this is one of those systems where it's one of those rare things where I think kind of everybody got what they wanted. The other Power Fives, wanted some sort of semblance of a guarantee of getting in, particularly the Pac-12, right? Like that's obviously the elephant in the room is the Pac-12 is the one conference that is woefully underperformed, and that's simply because we don't have a Clemson or an Oklahoma, right? So like the ACC and the Big 12 would be in our exact same spot if they didn't have Clemson and Oklahoma, right? So, okay, so the Pac-12 gets their situation taken care of. And then, the group of five, I think the CFP is aware that they need to maintain at least an appearance of opportunity, right? And so they kind of had to make sure a G5 could get in. So, UCF, whatever, back in the day, they would have had an opportunity to play for the championship out of this model. So, the G5s are pretty happy about that. And then, in theory, you could get in more than one G5 because you've got, the next 6 highest ranked, teams, so in theory, one of them could get in too. And, and then you mentioned, the SEC, the Big Ten, same deal. Like they could, under this system, they're like, we could get in 3 or 4 teams. And, there you go. I know that if the system had been in place, I think they would have averaged, just a hair under 3 teams a year under this model. Yeah. But the Pac-12, to be honest, looking at this model though, and maybe this is, I think, the thing that is really attractive about it. The Pac-12 under this model would have done probably better than, at least certainly better than I realized in terms of just getting teams into the field. I think it was out of the 6 normal seasons. Obviously, last year was a whatever, but out of the 6 normal seasons, there was only 1 year where they would have only gotten 1 team in. Every other year they would have gotten at least 2, and there were a couple times they would have gotten 3. So, they wouldn't have had the highly ranked teams, but I think, it goes to show that maybe the Pac-12 would have had an opportunity to, to prove itself by getting some teams in the field, and they might be at a disadvantage seeding wise, but, at least they'd be in the field. And as we saw from the NCAA tournament this year, sometimes people think your league sucks, and then your league really doesn't suck. So,
yeah, and so that 2018 season is kind of what Cougs talked about, so I see some people say that would have been like the Apple Cup loss would have been that much more devastating. It was already pretty devastating because it knocked us out of the chance to go to the Rose Bowl,
right?
But yeah, and it knocked out any like chance of getting into the CFP. But yeah, there was already that USC game is frustrating because they would have won the Pac-12 North if maybe someone got called for a targeting call that they most certainly did.
Yeah.
But yeah, even in that scenario, 2018, we were still mad about that because but now they would have went from probably a top 4 team to still in the CFP, like a number 8 or something, and you would have had Washington and WSU potentially in there. I don't know, like I forget where Washington was. They kind of rose a lot after beating us and then winning the Pac-12 championship. Yep. So I'm not sure exactly if they would have still made it in or not, but I guess they still would have won the Pac-12 championship, but they still beat us at the end or whatever. But I don't know. But yeah, at the same time, maybe maybe the committee is looking at these rankings differently.
Yes.
If it is for a tournament versus just for a bowl where you know, they want to put that team in there because they like the matchup in a bowl game.
100% agree with you.
But now it kind of changes it where it's not really about matchups. You're just trying to have, you know, the 12 best teams in there. So maybe WSU gets a harder look over Penn State in 2018 if it's that instead of instead of for the Cotton Bowl or whatever it was.
Yep. I 100% agree with you. Although there's still a lot of room for getting the matchups that you want. I'm sure we'll get some magical, seat like ranking placement, like, oh, look, Michigan and Notre Dame are playing or whatever. Like, it's, I'm sure there will still be some of that, but yeah, at least it's, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think what is kind of, in terms of the matchups, what kind of is most exciting is to finally see these group of 5 teams like like UCF and Memphis recently, and just like get in and get to play a legitimate like stakes game against someone. So there's no excuse for maybe when Utah beat Alabama or when Boise State beat Oklahoma or whatever, that they just didn't care that much about that. Or when UCF beat Auburn, like maybe they just didn't care. They didn't want to be there. Well, you're not going to have that excuse in a playoff. No one's not going to want to be there or whatever. So it's going to be fun to see a group of 5 team get in there and kind of mess it. It'll have more of that the vibe of March Madness gets sometimes, where some school from a smaller conference can beat the big team. So so that part I like.
The opening rounds are hosted by the higher seeded team. So there is a chance that a G5 school could be hosting a playoff game.
Yeah, like UCF would have hosted a playoff game in 2018.
Yep.
That's the only one I'm seeing.
But that is still the idea of it is still super cool. It's just like I think the thing that I like about this, and and PJ had a lot of really good criticisms for it in the thing that he wrote last weekend, but it was he was kind of talking about how like the extra games and the exploitation, and yes, I am absolutely aware of those things. I guess my perspective is, look, we're going to have a playoff, right? And so if we're going to have this system and if we're going to do it, then I think I like this 12 team setup just from the fact that it's more of a meritocracy than college football has probably ever been in its existence, right? Like, I remember when I was still working in journalism, 20 years ago now almost, fresh out of college, and that was sort of right about the advent of the BCS, right? The Bowl Coalition or whatever they call it, the Bowl Coalition, right? And the goal was to get 1 versus 2. And so, so you get 1 versus 2, but where I was working at the time, I was working at CBSSports.com, and the guy I was working with was a guy named Don Borst, who used to work at the News Tribune and worked at CBS Sports. Now he's a middle school math teacher or something. We all became teachers after we lost our jobs, but his sort of thing. Now he was our manager. He ran the place, but his thing that he did was he was a college football writer before he did that, and he still loved doing the bowl matchups. And so he would sit there and he would work the phones all day long from about, I don't know, man, it was about mid-October when he started working the phones, like talking to bowl representatives and talking to conference people and talking to ADs. And I'd hear these conversations. He's like talking to everybody, trying to figure out who's going to which bowl, because that was back when it was still like all backroom stuff, right? And people would just get, people would end up in this bowl or that bowl, and people would get screwed out of things. I mean, this is before they'd be like, okay, after the first place team, goes to the Rose Bowl, but then after that, it's like, right? So
whoever you want.
Yeah, like, and before they put in those whole, second choice, third choice, fourth choice things. So anyway, it's just, college football has a long history of super shady shit, and this is, I mean, obviously still, we've already pointed out, it has the potential, to be shady, but at the very least, it's at least somewhat tied to merit. And I think that aspect is cool. Flaws aside, the fact that, a team could potentially play 17 games, which I think we all agree is less than ideal. And I think, my solution is we need to just do away with conference championship games. Like that's yes. The thing that should go away. But of course that's never going to happen because they make money.
The conferences
right?
aren't giving those.
Yeah. So, in my mind, like, okay, I think the playoff is good. Let's get, if we're worried about playing too many games, let's get rid of the stupid championship games. But, which really in a lot of ways don't serve a purpose now, right? With the way that it's set up. So anyway, it's, it has its flaws for sure. The season is getting, very, very long. We've gone from 11 games to potentially 17 games, 12 games to potentially 17 games over the course of 20 years. And that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild to think about. But I think all in all, it's a good setup if we're just talking about the fairness of competition. And, I think that's pretty much all I can evaluate it on is the fairness of the competition. The rest of it is, to me, sort of a separate issue that, we continue to rail against with our little podcast.
Yeah, what's funny is thinking about those conference championship games, and if you have number 25 versus number 12 in your conference championship game, and you really need number 12 to win. Like maybe there's two group of 5 teams sitting there at 10 and 14.
Absolutely. And
you really need number 12 to win to get any team in there. And obviously the conference you're thinking of here is the Pac-12, because none of the other conferences, you cannot, I don't see Oklahoma being that far down. I don't see Clemson being that far down. These things aren't permanent. Yeah, but if it's ever felt like we have 5 or, maybe 5 teams that don't seem like they're not going anywhere, it's that never going to be outside the top 10. It's Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and you probably throw Notre Dame in there too, and who am I? Yeah. Alabama, of course. No, did I already say Alabama? LSU. No, not even LSU anymore. So yeah, probably Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame. Probably your 5 teams where they're probably always going to be in the top 10. But Notre Dame's obviously not a conference. That's a really interesting thing. What does Notre Dame think of this? Because they are always going to need an at-large bid. But now there's 6, but that also means they have to finish in the top 12. We've seen Notre Dame get ranked too high often to get them into some big Orange Bowl or something. So it'll be interesting to see how Notre Dame is treated in this realm. Yeah,
it was funny. Notre Dame's AD was on the committee that came up with this, and so he sort of jokingly was like, "Hey, I don't want to hear any more about favoritism for Notre Dame," because he was part of the group. Well, yeah, he was part of the group that decided, hey, they can't get a bye, right? So, yeah, that part is good. It's just, I think if the Pac-12 is smart.
I do love that. Notre Dame kick in the eye.
That's but hey, join a conference if you want to do that. But I think if the Pac-12 is smart, they'll do away with divisions. Because you do not, to sort of riff off your point, you do not want to have, a team that's ranked 10th, from the north playing an unranked team from the south and then potentially losing. That could screw you right out of the whole thing. And you want to try and avoid that.
Like,
so
yeah.
you do if you're going to keep the conference championship, you do it like the Big 12 does. But even then, it's probably dumb, right? Like, okay, so let's say you got a team ranked 7 and a team ranked 9, right? Oh, and you're going to have them play each other?
Yeah, you're probably knocking
You're probably
one of your
knocking a
teams
team out, right? So why are you going to do that? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I think if they're
we just need to have John Wilner do all the
yeah.
scheduling.
The case
He
for
knows
favoritism.
how to set up. He has the case for favor. He knows what teams are going to be good going into the season.
So we got to make sure those
so
teams.
we just got to
are good.
let him make sure those teams get it. You know that you're playing the worst team. Like it'll just be like you're playing Arizona 8 times. And we're just going to get you right on through.
Yeah, make sure USC gets in that way. You know, make sure they're not playing any back-to-back road games ever.
Oh, by the way, I saw a tweet from him. He screenshotted UCLA's 247 page and said, "It's early. There's still 6 months to go or whatever. But USC is recruiting as it. But the USC is recruiting as it should." And I'm like, I mean, the language there is funny for him, and it's expected from him. I would say USC recruiting as you'd expect them to, but I'm pretty sure like USC is recruiting as it should. Like they had like 2 5-stars. Like how like USC hasn't been pulling multiple 5-stars lately. Like the only teams, Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State are the only programs that have been doing that.
Yeah.
So maybe Oregon sometimes, but yeah. So it's just funny the way he is very kind of old school. He sees the hierarchy of the conference and who should be treated well, and just there should be no like whatever. Yeah. We could go on John forever, but anyways, yeah. So I don't know. I think I'll probably enjoy this come the 12-team tournament time. I'll really enjoy it if WSU gets
this makes it at least possible, right? I mean, we were never going to get to that 14 field.
Well, yeah, we saw 2018. Like 2018 was our best chance, and they were sitting at 10-1, with their only loss being on the road by 3 points. And they still were only number 8, and they weren't budging. They stayed at number 8 for multiple weeks in a row, despite slaughtering Arizona by,
50 points or whatever. Yeah, and they were like, Washington State beat Arizona by 50. That didn't move the needle for you? And they were like, nah, not really. It's like, now, again, I think there's a chance that, if they are focusing on more teams being part of the field that they take. I just think it was clear that they never, ever, ever, ever took us seriously, right? Like that there was never a thought that, okay, this team is in the same league with those teams, right? And I think it's fairly well proven at this point that that the confirmation bias is really strong with those people. Mm-hmm. And that, if they think a team was good heading into the season, then they are seeing all sorts of reasons why that team is actually good. And if they thought a team was not good heading into the season, then they are seeing all kinds of reasons why that team is actually not good. And it just sort of plays out that way. I mean, it's, you look year after year after year, and we know that AP preseason polls are pretty good predictors of how good a team is going to be, and that's fine. I mean, I get that. But if you're trying to evaluate teams on their merit, you want to take a look at the evidence that you have, and it was just pretty clear that they were locked in on 5 or 6 teams and not really seriously considering anybody else. And that, at least with this, they'll be forced to do that. I think another side benefit is that, what we've seen is a real concentration of talent with 4 or 5 programs, particularly the top 3, right? With Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State sort of, doing it over and over and over again. And I think this has a real chance to spread that out a little bit because it took a few years. If you go back and look at, the CFP in its early, like first 3 years or so, it looked about what you'd expect it to look like. Different teams in and out each year. And then it just sort of morphed into this like Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma thing. Just over and over and over and over and over. And, with maybe Notre Dame sprinkled in or LSU one year, it's like, so it's just pretty clear that the players are going to the only places they think they can, play on that stage. And so hopefully this will do that. And I think it'll probably take a couple of years before it really kicks in, just like it took a couple of years before this current thing that we're in took over. But I think there's a good chance that talent maybe disperses a little bit. And because it's such a zero-sum game, all it takes is, a handful of players not going to Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and going instead to, I don't know, USC or Texas or whatever, God forbid Washington, to see, because it makes those schools a bit better, but it also at the same time makes those other schools a little worse, right? So it's not like you're trying to close the gap just by yourself getting better, but if you pick up some of those players, that means Alabama doesn't have those players, Ohio State doesn't have those players, and they are theoretically not as good. Because the biggest thing with those schools is they're just so fucking deep. Like they just, they have an injury. Oh, let's bring on, another 5-star quarterback. Let's bring on another 5-star defensive lineman. Like, it's insane, their depth. And so if you take some of that away, maybe it levels the playing field a little bit.
Yeah. I have a couple more thoughts on this. One, I'm surprised. I'm kind of scrolling through PJ's article, and I kind of forget if he, one thing I know he's always he's mentioned is how like some of the semifinal games were pretty lopsided, pretty frequently. Although the one I went to was amazing, the Clemson Ohio State one that I went to in person. But yeah, there have been some ones. But I don't know. Sometimes that's just, I don't know if that's more of a product. Like if maybe that fourth team barely gets in, they get slaughtered by the number one team. Yeah, but. I don't know, like, you probably won't see that disparity between, like, 8 and 12 and, or 7 and 12 and 8 and 11 and stuff. I don't think we'll probably get some good games in that. I think, and then I really like that I think it'd be cool, just on campus until the championship would be cool, but we have to worry about all these traditional bowl games who are obviously and the one that is glaring is the Rose Bowl. The one that hangs on to its tradition more than any other. And now they're still going to be like a semifinal sometimes a quarterfinal, I guess. Like that's how this is going to work.
But the Pac-12 Big Ten thing is out. Like that's done.
Oh, absolutely.
that is toast.
Yeah, There may be some year that it just happens, and that will be the only thing people talk about.
Well, I imagine they'll probably work something out where the higher seeded team goes to some, so like if the Pac-12 team is the higher seeded team in a quarterfinal matchup and the Rose Bowl is one of the quarterfinals, then the Pac-12 team probably will play in the Rose Bowl, right? I mean, it'll probably be something like that, I imagine, is how they'll work that out. But, yeah, it's going to be, look, tradition is going to go the way of the Buffalo, but it's like, look, we've been on this path for 30 years. Like that's kind of the, as much as it sucks and we all go, and like, we were fortunate enough as a school to go to a couple of Rose Bowls, fairly recently. And they were great. Like I went to the one in 97 or 98, New Year's Day, 1998, and it was special and it was electric, and there's no way to replicate that. But, I mean, once we decided that, we were going to try and figure out who the best team was, I mean, it was pretty inevitable that it was going to, eventually go by the wayside. And the fact that it, took 30 years for it to happen, I think is, probably more of a testament to their power than anything else. Cause, any legitimate effort to crown a legitimate champion would have done away with, the bowl system probably 20, 25 years ago. But
yeah, it's kind of funny how the championship or nothing else matters has bled its way into like American sports and like everything. Like, you watch the WNBA and like a player is worthless if they're not on a championship team, and like just like nothing can be enjoyed unless your team is the champion or whatever. And college football has kind of moved more and more that way, and that's why we get we have to have a champion. Like we as like in basketball, we as like Gonzaga haters were like, oh, thank God they didn't win the championship, but we would definitely kill for WSU to do that well in the NCAA tournament. Like we're haha losers, but like Gonzaga fans are like heartbroken because they've been there already. They've already lost the national championship before. But like we would just like be like, that's the greatest season we ever had. But now it's like so championship focused. Like it's not as bad in college basketball, I'll say, because it's just that's such a crapshoot of a tournament. So it's just it's hard to just focus so much on that. Like, but yeah, football, and it just seems like we're Seahawks fans, and I just, it's so hard to enjoy an 11-5 season anymore. Which I would have killed for in like the 90s with the Seahawks, but like it's just like because it's so much. It's all about Super Bowls. It's the team who wins the Super Bowl and all that all the time now. It's the quarterback. You're no good if you're winning a Super Bowl. The players like no good. And I mentioned NBA earlier. That's where it's the worst. Like because we see players just form teams around the league. Like it was wild. I was watching Brooklyn and Milwaukee tonight. And Milwaukee's kind of a classic team that I remember, like, team with like a player they developed and a couple players, Middleton and Giannis. I don't even know how to say his last name. Giannis, like they developed, they drafted and developed those players. Those are the best players in their team. They've added a couple of guys here and there, but like those are their stars. And then you have the Nets who literally just bought a team. Like they have Durant and they have Harden and they have Kyrie who is hurt, but it's like players just go places because winning that title is the only thing that matters. And even like a player as great as LeBron gets kind of underappreciated because he's lost so many finals. Like you don't even look at how many like times he's went to the finals, like how deep, like how much of a grind the NBA playoffs are and how many times he's went through that. But we just focus so much on titles. And so, yeah, we saw, I remember in the 90s watching college football and like more and more people get so mad that we don't have the right team. We don't have the right team. It's like, well, everyone only plays 11 games and they play every other, like none of them play each other. So like, how the hell are we supposed to figure that out?
Yep.
Like even when we look at systems like Bill Connolly's system, like even his stuff is like, it's okay at predicting, but there's not nearly as much data as there is in other sports because there's not very many games. And so it's harder to just look at that system and be like, oh, well, they're better, so they deserve it. So yeah, and then in college football now, obviously we've decided who is the better team. So like UCF can go, like 23 games in a row or whatever, and we're still like, nah, you're not allowed. At least they're going to be allowed now. But I'm just kind of ranting at this point.
I think you capture kind of the issue with the previous system. Is that the focus was so much on playoff or nothing, and that's some of that is American culture, like you said, but some of that is just ESPN. Like what you are told matters is what matters, right? And that seeps into everything. I mean, look, you and I are fans of like the NWSL and the WNBA. And it's like there's an appetite for women's sports. Like there's an appetite for it, but different media outlets, mostly ESPN because they are the gorilla, right? Like have just decided, it's not that important, right? Like we believe what's important is what we are told is what's important. I mean, and you see this all in so many different ways. I mean, look, the whole, fear over critical race theory right now, and people going to school boards and saying, you got to teach critical race theory. And it's like, well, you don't know what that is. And also, do you have any examples of us doing that? And they're like, well, that's not the point. Like it's this manufactured thing because there are certain news outlets that are just saying this is happening and saying it's important. It's not just that thing. I mean, it happens all over the place, right? And I mean, it's just an extension of sort of the gatekeeper notion, right? I mean, we were taught about that when I was in journalism school. Like, you are the gatekeepers, right? And so, because ESPN has decided so much to emphasize the playoff, and for good reason for them, right? I mean, this is they're paying, however many billions of dollars for that property, right? They want as high of ratings as humanly possible for those games. So of course they're going to promote the shit out of them, right? So, but the unintended consequence of that is that it creates this ethos where they are those three games are the only games that actually matter. And then the only games, regular season games that matter are the ones that have an impact on those four teams. And, people say it's like, oh, well, this just further diminishes the regular season. I say bullshit. This is going to make it better, right? Because now more teams are involved, more, and some people look and go, well, that devalues the regular season because now, you don't have to be undefeated anymore to get in or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, but now you have more teams whose regular seasons matter. And to me, that means the regular season matters more. Right. So I think this could have sort of the opposite effect that some people are thinking. And then I think also, you mentioned we just have this way of not, enjoying things just to enjoy them. Right. Well, again, this has the potential to maybe be a little bit like March Madness where, if you get in and you win a couple of games, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we may not win a championship, but holy crap. I mean, look, our fondest memory is a team that made it to the fucking Sweet 16 in college basketball, right? We're like, oh my God, remember that team? Sweet 16, that was amazing. And we're like, there are dozens of other schools around the country that laugh at the notion that your favorite team made it to the Sweet 16, right? But it's that, hey, we knew we probably weren't going to win a national championship, but the accomplishment of, winning a couple games, including, running over Notre Dame, that we remember those things fondly. And I think the 2018, same kind of deal, let's say we had made it in, right? Figured out a way to make it in. And let's say we make it in and then we lose in the first round, but we're still like, yeah, but remember that? Remember we made to the playoff, right? I just have a feeling that, it's a way to maybe validate the thing and have more teams be relevant, have their seasons matter, and maybe be able to bring a little more joy without, necessarily, winning it all, right? And maybe the same four teams end up playing in the semis and the final every year. I mean, maybe that continues to happen. But I'd be willing to bet that, we'll see more rotation with those four teams than we currently do, just because, upsets are going to happen, things are going to happen. And I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I agree with you that, it'd be great to have have home sites up until the semis, but the Bulls will never go for that. I mean, if the Rose Bowl, basically you'd be left with what's the Rose Bowl going to get, Pac-12 3 and Big 10 4 or something, right? I think that's where we'd be left. So I don't see that happening, but like I said, I think this pushes a lot of the right buttons, and I think it's ultimately, if competition is what matters, once you went to a playoff, it was inevitable that it would get to this, and
Yeah, we've seen playoff creep in a lot of sports, MLB obviously, and I was you talked about your point of it makes it the regular season mean more to more teams. We've seen that in our lifetimes for Major League Baseball, where it used to be only the division winners
in two divisions
went
in two divisions,
and then it was the only division winners in four divisions. And then they added the wild card, and now they have multiple wild cards, and now it's like the Mariners are like only 5 games out of the playoffs. At some point in the season, so it's like all of a sudden like it matters for more teams. In the Mariners situation, I think it encourages them to go on their path of mediocrity because you can always feel like you're in it, but in college football, that's not really a thing. That's not good. No one decides to be like, keep their payroll at a certain level or anything. But so yeah, I think it will be, because if like the Cougs are, in October ranked 21st or something, you can think, hey, can we play our way into
win a few more games?
12? Like, can we do that? Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think it, I hope our program's at a place to do that at some point in the near future. I think the great sadness is when they had the Pac-12 championship game was on the campus sites, and WSU was so bad there was just no chance that ever was going to happen, and that always makes me sad. I'm like, but man, a Pullman home game on like December 12th would be amazing. Just like UCF has to come to Pullman on December 12th.
There's going to be some epically bad
guaranteed
weather games,
snow
man, in that playoff. There's going to be some serious bad weather.
Well, we see it in the FCS playoffs all the time. Like Montana, just snow dumping all the time. Yeah. So I don't know. It'll be cool. Wow, we spent a lot of time on that, but I think we'll see, man. We'll just get used to it after a few years, sure. Honestly. Like, we'll just accept it as we've always accepted all the things, despite our cognitive dissonance and whatever. So let's take a quick break, and then we will hit all of these questions that you guys
rapid
sent
fire
to us.
And we're back.
Rapid
fire.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, sure.
No, we're gonna rapid fire.
We're
gonna do it.
Okay, sure.
We're gonna do it.
We're known for such things. So let's rapid fire. What are you drinking?
I am having, I had a head full of dynamite in the back of my fridge that's a couple months old at this point. So I'm having that.
Very good.
I don't know which one this is, 24, I don't know, 27, something like that. I don't know. It was canned in mid-April, so it's a couple months old. It definitely tastes a couple months old, because the hops are intended to be pretty intense on these things, and definitely not what it was even a month ago, but still good. So.
Yeah, I'm on my second beer. I went to went and visited family in my hometown, my home area, the Yakima Valley, last weekend, and I brought back a couple beers. A beer called Neon Icon from Valley Brewing. I've talked about them before. Their slow motion potion. I'll put that up with a lot of hazies around the state, but this particular one, when we went, my dad and I we went to a couple of beer bars, and then we went to a Valley to end the night. And I was driving, so I was just having like light stuff. But my dad had this beer, and he said it was the best hazy he's ever had. And so we asked him, and they had 2 cans in the back, so we each took a can. And it was pretty good. Honestly, I'm getting over a cold. I still got sinus pressure. I don't think I'm at the peak beer tasting, but it was good. I don't think my dad was far off. It was very good hazy. He drinks a lot of bad ones too, but yeah, so it was, it's funny. My dad like hated IPAs, wouldn't drink them like a lot of people, but he loves the hazies. And I've seen that happen with a lot of people. Like they didn't like IPAs, but they love hazy IPAs, which kind of like, is why they warrant like a different style altogether, because they really are. They're the same level of hopping, but the hops are used in a much different way, and the body is different, whatever. And then the next one I have is actually pretty interesting. It's from Varietal, another valley in Sunnyside, another valley brewery.
Yes.
It's called Cone of Cold Wet Hop IPA. So what the hell, a wet hop IPA this time of year? It was used with frozen wet hops. So they picked fresh hops and then immediately like flash froze them. And then they brewed this on May 18th, 2021. So that is, usually you brew your wet hop beers in late August, September. So that is, that's well after that, and that's not even during I guess it might be during the New Zealand season, but I don't think so. So Citra, it's Citra and Simcoe, pretty tasty. It's a hazy one. It's pretty good. I have a couple more. Hopefully I'll get to drink one when my nose isn't all annoying and kind of stuffed up, and I can get the full experience. But overall, it's a lot nicer going back to drinking beer when I go back to Yakima these days, because there's a lot more good breweries and good places to drink beer. And hey, we drank beer at places, which was also pretty fun. Which my dad and I hadn't done in a while, so that was pretty cool. So let's get back to these questions. We have a lot of them.
You want me to start?
So, you start, and then I'll go. All
right.
To the next
so this one's not really a question, but more of a statement. This is from at Rick D Flores. Banned in the Crim Zone! Exclamation point! Five exclamation points. So apparently the band has been moved to the end zone. Somewhere Jeff O'Neill rejoices.
Yes, and
he of hashtag moved the band.
Yes, a victory for Jeff. Because, and his fair, like, I never really noticed because I sit on the other side of the stadium.
Right,
but
so you can hear
if you sat on the student side of the stadium, you could not hear the band because they are playing away from you, which would be frustrating and severely diminish the experience of going to a college football game. Totally understand. Very good decision, WSU.
Absolutely endorsed.
You weren't making any money on the seats anyway. I don't think they had that Crim Zone didn't have like the home crowd impact. Also, like the band is students too. They get rowdy.
Yes.
You can have them. Like it's fine. Like you still have students down there.
Absolutely.
So that'll be cool. Everyone will be able to hear the fight song again. So that will be great.
And might be able to
Jaws
clap and
else.
sing actually on beat. Like that part will be cool. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Good job.
Good decision.
Move the band. Yay.
They also...
Now we gotta find Jeff O'Neill another new topic.
Something else to get excited about. They do seem to have shrunk the student section just a tiny bit too.
That might have been...
Those things may have gone hand in hand, but...
Yeah. Well, they took away some, like... They made the bottom of the section... Because there was like part of the student section would be up against the rail, but the next section above them would be season tickets.
It was kind of a weird like little.
So now they've just taken they've taken that part away and moved the season tickets down, which kind of makes more sense. But
I listen.
It was weird that
I'm an ardent defender of the student section, just like anybody I think who attended games in that student section, but. I think we also could agree that the student section could shrink a little bit, and that would be okay. Given the just the empty corners that are off in there. And to be honest, I mean, it would not be the worst thing in the world if those tickets were at least not really tickets because they're, you buy the pass, but it's like if it was maybe just a little harder to get into the game, maybe just a little harder to find a seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that would be okay. I mean, not to the extent of, what other schools do. But cause I mean, a huge part of our advantage is, big, loud, rowdy student section, but I think that it's okay if maybe it's a little harder to get into the game and it's maybe not quite, roll in halfway through the first quarter and find a decent seat. So I think I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. I wouldn't complain if it was even a little bit smaller. So
yeah.
Next question.
So that's our rapid fire move the
Yes.
band. We decided to talk about the Sugar Stew section, whatever. So next question. I'm just looking at my mentions. I'm trying to stick it with football because we've already talked football, so we'll just keep that going. If you were to attend, and we saw this from Bradley Logan, Brad the Coug, and Rochelle Rosnitz at Shell Roz, both asking what would be the one WSU football away game this fall, which would it be and why? One, I want to say, Brad and Rochelle, why didn't you invite me? I was not invited to this. So my heart is broken. You're very clearly planning something. You're asking for my recommendation, but you did not invite me to it. Whatever.
Feeling a little left out.
I'll get over it. I'm feeling a little bit left out, but yeah, looking at it, it's not the best of years.
That was the first thing I thought when I looked at
away choices. Yep. So we don't have many.
Only 5.
We have Salt Lake City, Berkeley, Tempe, Eugene,
and Seattle.
Nope, not going. Going to the Apple
Cup's
Screw
off
that.
the list, so now we're down to 4 choices.
I haven't been to a Tempe game, but I've heard that is a blast. I've heard that Mill Street, whatever it's called, is super fun. And you're gonna have good weather at the end of October. It'll be Halloween. That could be. I'm leaning pretty hard on Tempe on Halloween's Eve.
Yeah,
as my choice.
I think.
Because you don't want to go watch a game at Cal. Like that's
okay, hold on.
Suck.
Because that was maybe going to be my choice.
I mean, are you talking about the road trip, or are you talking about like?
Oh, the game is
just
whatever.
Just
that game is gonna be full of bullshit. But Cal is a fun trip. Like that. Like Berkeley's great. Cal fans are awesome. Like they are legitimately like.
It's a pretty easy. Well, it's pretty easy trip too. There's a lot of airports.
BART, you can ride the BART, to get out to Berkeley.
Yeah.
And then just Berkeley's very walkable city. You walk up to the stadium. It's the stadium sort of nestled in the hillside. Right in the middle of it's kind of you're walking up through campus. And like I said, Cal fans. I mean, part of this is just that I've developed. I mean, not really relationships, probably too strong a word, but like. Acquaintances, like long range friendships, kinda with some Cal fans. They're just like cool people. For whatever reason, like I've just sort of like connected with some Cal fans. Nick Krantz, a bunch of the guys who used to do California Golden blogs who now do Write for Cal. Like Nick Krantz is one of those guys. Matthew Talbot, Twist and Hook. He's one of those guys. Avi, like they're just a bunch of dudes and they're great. And so, I've always enjoyed my interactions with them. And I think it would be super fun to go to Cal and meet up with some of those guys and sort of enjoy Berkeley and then watch my team lose in some spectacularly bullshit kind of way. It'd be fun for everybody involved. So that'd be my choice.
You got Rare Barrel if you like the enamel of your teeth being shaved clean off. Rare Barrel makes some great sours. Fieldwork Brewing in Berkeley
nice.
As well, so you could hit those up. Otherwise, like, yeah, Salt Lake City. I mean, I like going to, like, Utah is a beautiful place, but you're not going to be like going to national parks before you go to a football game. So, yeah, I don't think so. Eugene, you can go to Eugene anytime.
We can just drive to Eugene on a weekend if we want to. I don't really want. Like, and Eugene, by the way, Eugene's perfectly nice. It's a lovely place.
Well, the thing, Eugene is weird because you are going to drive there, but it's also a super long drive, and then you have Pullman, and it's November 13th. Like, it's
going to be rainy and cold.
Super fun drive.
It's going to be rainy and cold.
I will say the one downside to the Berkeley game is that, like, I guess you get a week off from traveling, because if you're going to every home game, let's say, you got 3 straight Pullman games, which is rough. At least it's not 5 straight like the one year. And then they have a road game, Utah, California, and then you have homecoming right after against Oregon State. 3 more home games. So if you go to Cal, you're doing a trip that weekend, then you have 3 more trips to Pullman again. And I know that Brad, for sure, is going to be going to all those Pullman ones. So, but I also know that you probably, Brad or Rochelle, you probably don't care if you've committed all your weekends to Cougar football in the fall. So, you're probably coming away all right there. Personally, like, I'm missing the October 9th game because, Amanda's brother is getting married that day. So I have to miss that. My daughter is the flower girl. I get to stay in a tree house, so whatever, that'll be fun. Like in Fall City, the tree houses, whatever. But so that'll be a cool experience, but I will miss the Oregon State game, which is kind of a bummer. Cause it seems like we always play Oregon State pretty well.
Seems like
homecoming. But, and then, so, you're right at Berkeley, but I think I'm going Tempe. Well, Tempe's just on the other side of that, though. Like, you're just like you're going.
Yeah, are you going to have anything
Pullman,
left
Tempe,
in the tank
Berkeley,
at that point?
That's a fair point.
I think Berkeley on an early October weekend is going to be hard to beat. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be about 80 and sunny.
The college with 90,000 students on campus on Halloween.
I'm too old for that shit, man.
That could be a sight to behold. That just sitting, like just looking around.
I'll be in bed before that even starts.
Why would you go on a football trip and then go to bed? What kind of vacations do you go on, new sir?
I'm old. I can't. I need my rest, dude. I need my sleep.
Well, then just stay home.
Well, see, that's what I did. Yeah. No. Okay. I think either one of those is a good answer. Let's see. Okay.
So you got 2 options of the 5 we narrowed it down.
Yeah. The other 3 suck. I mean, let's just be real. Okay. So here's another one. Let's switch to basketball. Ollie McClellan at Ollie McClellan, our favorite Canadian, says, should we fight Lunardi for making us last team out and putting Syracuse in? Furthermore, brass knuckles or bare knuckles?
So, of course it's Syracuse. It has Syracuse, if they're on the bubble they're in.
Okay,
anytime,
and by the way, we should tell people that Joe Lunardi did an updated preseason bracket today, and Washington State is the first team out of his field, and Syracuse is the last team in. So, continue your rant against Syracuse.
So yeah, Syracuse always gets in when no one thinks they're going to get in. They get in. And with the way they play, you just don't know. Like, they could be so damn annoying. They're the hardest team. They're, without a doubt, to me, the hardest team to pick when you're doing your brackets and stuff, because they very well could just get rain threes on in their first game, lose by 30, and they're done. And everyone's like, why was Syracuse even in? But what they also do sometimes is they upset like 3 teams because apparently those teams have never seen a zone defense before, and they just don't know what to do. And Syracuse walks the ball up the court and then just plays a zone on the other end. And then they have the same. I don't know if they have a cloning factory for these like white shooting guards that always like get hot in March and make like 10 threes a game. I don't know. Like they're just like they breed them in like the bowels of the arena. I don't know. But like Syracuse is just so goddamn annoying, and of course it would be Syracuse that like I think like if I'm Lenardi and I'm looking WSU or Syracuse, I'm thinking what the committee would always do. They would pick Syracuse over WSU if he's down 2. Now that would be heartbreaking if we were the first team out, that number 1 seed in the NIT. I really hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, if we can fight Lenardi. And I'm going to go brass knuckles because I don't want to break my little knuckles. I don't want to do that.
Joe Lenardi seems too nice for that, though. Like he really, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe like, so if we're talking about bracketologists I could fight, I mean, Jerry Palm, I could fight Jerry Palm. I'd be down with that. He's a little smug, you know? Joe Lenardi's just like, he's just smiling. He's this happy Italian guy. Like he is just, you know, he's kind of a fun guy. You know, and I think he takes, like, by the way, just as a side note, I think he takes the bracket about as seriously, his bracket predictions about as seriously as they should be taken, which is not that seriously. Like, he is trying to do a good job, but also, like, he recognizes that the whole point is to have fun. So I love that. I'm just, like, honestly, I'm just excited that we're in that conversation already, that we're even on that radar already, that, like, we're in that.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
us.
I'm not even mad that we're the one of his first ones out. Like, I'm like, that's fantastic. Like, we're already on that radar. That is awesome. So I have the opposite viewpoint that yes, it sucks that it's Syracuse and whatever. Like, Syracuse gets the benefit of the doubt, and you know, screw Syracuse and all that stuff. But like, how cool is this, right? I mean, we keep saying that, but you know, super super cool that. You know, this keeps happening.
So, next question. So, I'm really looking at the second question. We'll keep basketball because we already answered the first one. This is from Keith at InMyCar247. Do you expect a full Martin Stadium in the fall? We already talked about that last week.
Yes, we do.
Yes, both of us were a yes on that. So, if you want to hear us talk more about that, just listen to last episode. So, the other one is, which WSU assistant basketball coach would you expect to get plucked for a coaching job after a successful season this year?
So so the guy who really deserves it is Jim Shaw. So that's the number 1 assistant. I think he got a new title, right? Like associate head coach or something like that.
Yeah, he's associate head coach.
He's a guy who long time assistant, and then ran his own Division II program down in Oregon at his, I think it's Western Oregon, right? Which was his alma mater, and was wildly successful there. The dude can flat coach, and you know, we hear things, you know, just about the stuff that he does and the influence he has on the program. The dude is just a really incredible coach, and so I would love it if he got a chance to run his own, you know, Division I program. I think he deserves it. I think he would be awesome, and so that's my vote, because I don't know that either of the other two guys, either Andershek or Phelps, I just don't see either one of them being, you know, a super hot commodity after a really successful season. Not that both of them aren't awesome. I think both of them are awesome. But, you know, I'm just not sure that, you know, I guess I would say this, like, you know, with what Kyle Smith has done the first 2 years, his name still isn't really being bandied about for jobs. So if his name isn't being bandied about for jobs, then assistants probably not either. You know, if people are like, oh, we really want some of that WSU juice, well, they're probably going to come for Kyle Smith first, right? So I don't know that I don't know that there's either Phelps or Andrushak. I just think Shaw, is such an experienced coach with a long track record. I think that's a guy who could end up sliding out and taking over a Division I program, and I think he'd do amazing. Like I think that'd be super awesome for him. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I was going to say the same point where if we have a successful season, it's not going to be the assistants that people are looking at. Like it's not going to be who they're looking at. They're going to be looking at Kyle Smith. My vote was also going to be Jim Shaw as well because of the experience. We know that Andrushak has showed up on kind of like top young coaches lists and stuff like that. So I think he's on the radar for people. But he has 3 years now of assistant, like full-time assistant coach experience. So we know he's talented and works his butt off and his kind of has unique skills that a lot of coaches don't have. So I fully expect him to inevitably be a head coach, but maybe not after next season, right? So,
maybe someone wants to go way outside the box with him because he's developing quite the reputation as a recruiter, right? Particularly with the international guys. Analytic minded dude. So I don't know. Maybe he's from back east, so maybe some school in the Patriot League or the MAC, or something like that, or the MEAC decides, hey, we want to go way outside the box and hire, this young guy who has, unique ways of, analyzing the game and recruiting. And so I don't know, maybe somebody does, but it would take, I don't know, man, it would take a pretty bold AD who really has nothing to lose and maybe someone who is, connected to Kyle Smith in some way. I don't know, man. Maybe that connection is out there, but I don't know. I'd have a hard time seeing that. But if it did, we'd be the first ones to celebrate. So.
Or maybe Columbia sours on Jim Ingles and they want to bring John home. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. They're all gonna stay forever. And it's gonna be great. No one's gonna leave forever. They all love it. They all love it here forever.
Everyone wants to be in Pullman for the rest of their life.
Yeah, everyone wants to be an assistant coach in Pullman for the rest of their life. That's what.
All right.
But again, I think the overall arching point here is that if we have a good season this year, it's going to be Kyle that people are going after, not any of the assistants.
So related question, by the way, from at WSU Brady 27: will we just roll the Ernie money into keeping Smith around in the future? Basically, double his salary after his crazy talent turnaround the last couple of years. I like the way you think. I like that train of thought.
Hey, that's like when you're at a business, like your department has a budget, and if you don't spend the budget like that year, you're afraid that they're going to cut your budget the next year.
Right.
So you just spend the money regardless of what it is because you want the same amount. So I see what you're saying, Kyle Smith for president at WSU Brady 27. By the way, congrats on getting married, dude.
Woo.
So I see what you're saying about that because like that $1.4 million we're paying to Ernie comes off the books. We got to spend it again or going to take it away. We got to keep spending it. So spend it on Kyle. But seriously, before the pandemic, I'd be like, hell yeah, give him that cash. I definitely think he's going to get that. You're going to see him if WSU has success this year. He's definitely going to get a raise.
Yes.
There's no doubt in my mind, and they'll probably have to give him a raise. I think he'll be, but I think it'll be more up to like the 1.8 to 2.
I think you'll see
more than like the 2.8.
Some of it goes Kyle's direction, and then some of it goes towards this little, pesky debt service and all that stuff. So I think that's probably how it goes.
But hopefully we can, the expectation around the season and the hope that we could have these full arenas again, because we're seeing that in NBA playoffs and stuff. So I don't, unless this thing comes back in a new and terrifying fashion, if we have the full arenas, they'll be making more revenue from the basketball program again, just from this expectation. I think they're probably going to sell more tickets. So hopefully we have that going. So there's justification, to give a raise and keep him around. So, but yeah, I like your idea of, hey, we were already paid basically $2.8 million for the basketball coach position. Let's just keep doing that. We'll just keep rolling it. I'm sure, the one person that loves that idea more than anybody is Kyle Smith. Like, he would absolutely appreciate that. I think he'd be okay with that. Yeah, good question. Let's see. Let's just go right to the next one from WSU. Brady asked another one. This is the hardest one. Popular idea for athletics to raise revenue is officially licensed products. Example, an officially licensed beer. I don't think any athletic program has done an officially licensed beer, but that could be something. But what would or should the name of the officially licensed WSU beer be?
Okay, so I've given this a little bit of thought.
I have a follow-up question. Who should make the beer? Who should make
that's got to be like...
Paradise Creek,
it's got to be
Paradise
Paradise
Creek,
Creek,
they don't
right?
have...
I
think, but Paradise Creek doesn't have, I think it would have
I was
to be
going to say, it also could be like
they
No
have
Lie.
The production capacity.
They got to be able to make enough of it to get us excited about it. And No Lie is, of course, run by a bunch of Cougs, so that part's great. Let's see. So my first thought is that we need to talk about the kind of beer, right? So let's start with style. So the style to me has to be a drinkable tailgate beer, right? So we're talking a lager, a pilsner, something like that, right? You're with me on that, yeah? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So lager or pilsner.
But I will say lagers take longer to make and they cost more money to make because they take longer
to make. Did not know
that. They take a couple weeks longer to ferment. So they do cost a little more money. They require fermenting at cold temperatures. So you can't just ferment them at room temperatures. So that's why it's taken a while for craft breweries to really get on the lager train, because you don't see a lot of brand new craft breweries do lagers because they're just expensive. And but yeah, I think ideally, yes, it would be a lager, because so you can down it. But if not, I think they probably would do like a pale ale. Hoppy beers are very popular now, and but you don't want to go a full IPA because you don't want to have it to be like 7%. Maybe like a nice 5% pale ale. I like what you often see is kind of WSU breweries where like they're trying to make a WSU beer. It's always a crimson something, and then it's a red beer, which no one wants. Like hardly anyone wants a red ale.
Well, and even if you did, you don't want to drink 3 or 4 or 5 of those at a tailgate. Like that's just like drinking syrup for a couple of hours. So
a red ale, like a 5%.
I'm just talking like
just the sweetness. It's just the color.
They tend to have the more caramely flavor profile, and maybe that's just me because I'm not into like the sweet flavor profiles. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah. So I don't know. Like, I guess everyone wants to put Crimson. I saw at Hendu Machu said Crimson Despair. That's pretty cynical, my man. Coming from a very cynical person. I don't think that would sell that well. I think like if it's officially licensed, then you can use Wazoo. You can use Butch. You can actually use. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be like a wink, wink, nudge name. So I would want that in there. Like I would just like it would just be like it'd be cool if like during fresh hop season we had a Wazoo wet hop. Like I definitely think Wazoo should be in the name.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Yep.
Like that would be great. I'm trying to think of a beer style that starts with a W.
Wit beer.
It's failing me, but wait, maybe a Wazoo Wild Ale.
Wazoo
wit
beer.
A wit beer. Wazoo wit beer. Yeah, that'd be cool. Actually, a wit beer probably would be a pretty good style because it's light and a lot of people drink it because a lot of people drink Blue Moon. It's like, hey, you like a Blue Moon? Have a wit beer. Also a style that could use a bit of a renaissance. You know, I liked my Allagash wits back when I lived in the Northeast. I would love if we said a little wit. Yeah, let's say, a Wazoo wit. You could do, I don't know, what else could you reference?
Maybe like prominent landmarks, around campus could be ways to do it.
Like
you could have you could have
the
French ads saison.
Yeah, or the big blue heart blueberry wild ale or something.
Oh, we need to rebrand the blueberry pucker that Paradise Creek does. The Huckleberry
Puckler.
Yeah,
Huckleberry
but it's
Puckler.
Like the blue heart. I don't know. Blue whatever.
But the blue heart would actually just be like one of those beers that just has a bunch of shit in it.
It's like random.
Like it'd be like blueberries, but it would have like graham crackers and vanilla and
we would need Great
like
Notion
human,
to make that for us.
Like
That's where we would contract that out to Great Notion.
Yeah, it would be a Great Notion beer, which they did. They did an apple cut beer, and they had a dog versus. I can't remember what it was called. It was called like Go Local Sports or something. It was called like Sports. Maybe it was just called Sports.
Sports
and then the E9 does puppies versus kittens every year. And the label is like split a crimson and gray and a purple and gold side. But I don't know. Like I'm having trouble coming up with an exact name. I will say I would like there to be like Wazoo in there or like Butch's Brew shit. Like that would be kind of boring.
Yeah. But it'd be all right.
Yeah, because I guess I'm just trying to think like what's like a great like. I don't know, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like you could have Palouse Sunrise, and just have it be like have the can art around the Crimson game. The College game day, and all that. The flag on it. It'd be really cool to drink a beer that had the actual Cougar logo.
It would.
On the front of it.
That would sell
be
pretty well,
cool.
I think.
I'm very down. Yeah, I'm very down for this. But I mean, if it's officially licensed, it's definitely gonna be from like Coors
licensed
or something.
Wines. So this can't be like that out there, right?
It's true. They have that Cougar wine. It's literally just the WSU logo. And it doesn't even have a name.
And they just number it by vintage,
It'd be funny if it was just like, like they had like beer back in the day. So instead of like beer,
just put the Coug head on it.
Like it's just the logo on the beer. Like it's probably Busch Light inside, but it's just like, what if they just sold Busch Light?
That would be funny.
You bought a 30 bomb of Busch Light and you opened it and it was just the Coug logo on the beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe the Coug brings back their horrifically bad Coug lager, which they tormented us with. And they can that. It's bad when you have a bunch of college kids who'll drink anything who are like, this beer is bad. This is not good. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm leaning towards no name of the beer, just the Coug logo on the beer, and it's just like the Coug beer. Everyone just calls it the Coug beer, like when they had beer, or animal beer, hams. My dad always called hams like animal beer. So I like that. That's my final decision. Just the logo, and it has no name, and we just all call it the Coug beer.
That works.
Or the Wazoo beer, whatever we want.
Let's see. Okay. Let's do last one. At Totes McStose, talk about the Thorns, Rain, and Timbers Sounders doubleheader in August. I want to go. Should be an amazing environment. Well, guess who's going? You and me.
We are.
As Sounders season ticket holders, we're going to that game. I think at Totes McStose.
And well, hold on. Let me put my Rain season ticket holder hat on for a second.
Total
such bullshit. We have to buy tickets for that game?
I had tickets for that game in Cheney. Now
let me put my Sounders season ticket holder hat on.
It's fucking awesome.
Dude, I gotta go to both games. I got to go to both games with just my one ticket? All right, man.
I think your Sounders hat's going to win out.
Put my Rain hat back on. What? I don't get unlimited beer with my ticket that I get at the Rain match?
Yeah. Seriously, that's going to be an awesome day. That's going to be so much fun. I think at Totes McStose, I believe is a Portland fan. So good luck with that, buddy. I hope you sit in the top row. No, I'm just kidding. Stay home.
Stay home.
But no, like if you go, let's meet up and have a beer. Flat Stick Pub.
Flat Stick Pub.
We'll meet up. We'll have a beer, and we promise not to be too mean.
I've seen Timbers fans in there before.
It's not like going to Fuel or something. You're not going to get beat up or anything. So Flat Stick's a nice place.
Except by me.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. So for people who have any idea what we're talking about, the NWSL teams of the greater Seattle area and Portland are playing a game at Lumen Field, and then right after that, the Sounders and the Portland Timbers are going to play a game at Lumen Field. It's going to be an epic doubleheader, and your one Sounders ticket gets you into both games. So we are fairly excited for going to those games. Me in particular, as someone who is not a Rain season ticket holder like you are, I'm super stoked to get to watch them in a not just like watch them, but like watch them in a what will be I assume a pretty electric environment. And then we'll get to see Morgan Weaver, and we'll get to yell "Go Cougs," and then just boo the shit out of her. So it'll be great.
Hey, and Ella Diedrich, who's the third string keeper on the Rain, so
who totally will not play, but we can yell "Go Cougs" at her too.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, so we had one more question on the defensive transfers and the possibility of a good defensive backfield. Maybe, obviously, you got Jalen Watson that helps, lock down one side. I think that helped a lot last year, just having one guy kind of lock down the side. I think there is a possibility that the backfield is if I'm looking at any of the levels of the defense, I feel probably the best about the backfield, defensive backfield. So, possibility. The transfers, they give you some depth, they give you some talent.
I mean, at this point, they're piling on so many bodies that you just hope that you can cobble together 5 guys from all the bodies. Like
our Tyrone Hill or Caleb Ford Dormant, or Christian Jackson, they were kind of all the same level of athlete coming out of high school that the guys we already have are. So maybe they can step in. Maybe Alphonse, how you say his name? Alphonse.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it. But former 4-star kid. Yep.
Maybe he steps up. Maybe in his sophomore year. You still got Hicks. You still got Langford.
Isom.
Maybe some. Out of Isom, out of all those kids, they can pull together 4 that are. We know Watson's going to be there, but the other 3, if they can just pull together 3 others, I think there's especially because Watson is the anchor, I think you have a chance to have a decent defensive backfield.
I mean, obviously they were unsatisfied, so they've added as many guys as possible. So,
So hopefully you find, like you said, pile on bodies.
Yep.
Find one. Find one or
I
two.
think there's a reasonable chance. I'm more. I would say I'm sort of along your lines. I'm more concerned about the defensive line than I am about the defensive backfield. They've added so many guys. I'm like, okay, you know, and like I said, all the guys they've added tell me that, you know, they are just they know that area needs help. But I feel like they've added so many guys. Like, I don't know, man. To add if they've added that many guys and they are still historically terrible in the backfield, that would really be something. That would really be something.
And you just know that the team is going to avoid, like, the guy on the left, like, every time.
Yes.
Like, so, like,
yep.
Man.
I think I feel okay that they'll be able to cobble something together there. I am concerned about the interior of our defensive line and the rotation at the defensive end positions. You know, I think our top two defensive ends could potentially be very, very good. But after that, I'm a little. I mean, we saw that was part of what happened last year. Was, you know, the depth was so rough that those guys, you know, got really, really, really tired, and so I think if, you know, maybe we could do that, but I'm skeptical about our depth on the defensive line, and I'm much more concerned about that, and I think, you know, if you sit there and look at it and go, well, if that's the case, why aren't they adding defensive linemen? Well, those guys are a lot harder to find. Like, let's just be real that, you know, guys who can play defensive line are just, you have a much easier time finding defensive backs than finding defensive linemen. Like, that's just a reality. So I don't know, maybe they just decided, hey, you know, defensive back is a place where we can improve more quickly. And so if we build it from the back to the front, I mean, most coaches would prefer to build from the front to the back, right? You start in the trenches and, you know, build that up. But, you know, maybe this coaching staff said, you know, maybe we just don't really have much of an opportunity to get better up front in a hurry. So maybe we just try to, you know, nail down the back as quickly as possible, which makes sense given the pass forward nature of football at this point. So I'm a little more worried about the line, but, you know, I don't know. I'm just pessimistic about the defense in general. So, you know, maybe they'll be awesome and surprise me. So I don't know.
So I have to point out, I don't think I said that was from at Mongo Santa Maria, from Mongo Santa Maria at Mongo Maria. Joined November 2020, longtime Twitter user. I do enjoy the last retweet this Twitter user person did was retweeting Mina Kimes with using that video of the family freaking out and, like, the mom drinking the martini and, like, the guy grabbing the boombox and the little girl grabbing the gun out of, like, I forget even what the context of that was, but it's James Harden upgraded to questionable, which I think it's so perfect. That was a really good game, by the way. If anyone to watch that tonight, that was
poor Bucks.
A couple former Sonics.
Bucks should have moved to Seattle when they had a chance. Just saying.
Yeah. Learn a mid-range jumper, Giannis.
That guy,
come on,
that fucking guy.
All right, so thank you, everyone who sent us questions.
By the way, I don't know about you, but I have been actually legitimately shocked by how many questions we get, and good questions too. Like this makes our life a lot easier.
Yeah, we basically talked like for 40 minutes about the thing we were going to talk about, and then we talked about an hour for everything else. So that's pretty cool. So again, as always, thank you, Randy England at Randy England Music on Instagram for our all the music you hear throughout this. You don't have to listen to me try to sing songs I made up in the 30 seconds before the show started anymore. So I know some of the longtime listeners might miss them, and those people are crazy. So I am at the Craig Powers on Twitter. Jeff is at Pod VS Everyone. You should subscribe to this if you haven't. You should rate us 5 stars and leave a comment if you haven't done that. You should tell your kook friends, hey, you got to start listening to this. The summer, Kook football is coming. You want to be all prepared. Listening to these dudes who drink beer and burp and talk about football and basketball mostly all summer. So, yeah, we'll get you hyped up for football season. Yeah. Tell your friends that we'll probably, I don't know, we'll probably have some really cool guests coming up in the next month or so. So I think it'll be fun. Or maybe the next 2 months. I'll say the next 2 months. We'll have some really cool guests. So, yeah, it should be fun. Go
Cougs,
Cougs,
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.